What's up, YouTube? I haven't done a haul in a very long time. I do not remember the last time I filmed a haul, but I know it was last year, and I've picked up several books since you've last seen me do a haul. So I thought I'd share some books that I've gotten recently. So I have a pretty wide range of books. Most of these I've bought with my own money, and I have a few that have been sent to me from publishers. These are just gonna be physical books. Of course, I have some ARCs and digital things, of course, but I'm just gonna go over the physical books that I have today. Got a good little stack, so let's go ahead and get right up into it. Grab a snack, grab a little drink should you choose to partake. We're gonna have a good time and talk about some books that I've bought recently. So I'm gonna start off first with a couple books that I've already read. I'm also gonna try and go by category. So first we're gonna talk about some romance books that I've picked up recently. So the first two books are by one of my favorite romance authors ever, and that is Emily Henry. So I picked up Funny Story and Beach Read. Now, this is the deluxe version of Beach Read. You can see the foiling on my CH has come off because I bought this used off Pango to save some money. You know, I really wanted this edition, and I came across a listing on Pango. It was $8, and I picked it up, and there was a sticker on there, but I was like, no biggie, I'll just take it off. Well, I did the little hair dryer trick to get your sticker to come off smoothly, and it took off my foil. So now it's low-key damaged, and I want to try and figure out if there's a way for me to repair the gold foil on this. Maybe if I get like gold leaf or something and try to make something work. Ugh, so annoying. But I don't know if I've ever mentioned before, but Beach Read is my favorite romance book ever. I love this book so much. This was the second Emily Henry book that I ever read, and I absolutely fell in love with her as a writer. This, in my opinion, is her best novel. This is a rivals to lovers, opposites attract kind of romance. Augustus and January went to college together, and they took the same like writing course, and there was a little bit of a rival between the two of them. Now they're adults. They are both published authors. Augustus writes like nonfiction works and is a best-selling in his craft, and January is a bestseller in the romance genre. January happens to inherit her dad's lake house after he unfortunately passes away, and her next door neighbor of this lake house happens to be Gus. Now, what's crazy about the both of them is that the fact that not only they went to college together, they didn't like each other. Also, they're both experiencing some trauma in their life, and they both are actually dealing with a really bad case of writer's block. So one night they decide, what if we try to write in each other's genre? So January is going to try and write a nonfiction book, and Gus is going to try and write a romance novel. So basically this turns into a little bit of a forced proximity kind of book. I love this book. It is so good. It is real. It is heartwarming. It is heartbreaking. I sobbed the first time that I read this book, and I've been really itching to want to read it again. So I'm thinking a reread is in the future. Also, this deluxe edition of this book is so good. There's a couple quotes that are on the deluxe edition that are chef's kiss. This one says, when the world felt dark and scary, love could whisk you off to go dancing. Laughter could take some of the pain away. Beauty could punch holes in your fear. I love that quote. If you take off the dust jacket, it's a very good quality dust jacket, to be honest. The quote on the front of this, which I don't know if you can read it. Let me see if it'll focus. It says, I feel overwhelmed that you exist. That quote is something that Gus says to January one night.
And now he's literally all I ever think about.
The swoon of the century. Also, like the end papers on this are just so pretty. If you're gonna do sprayed edges on a book, this is how you do it. I'm really happy to have this. I love this book. I still want to get the paperback version of this book. Specifically, I want to get the UK version of this book in paperback because there is a different ending in the UK editions of this book. That's Beach Read. And then the other book that I picked up recently was a copy of Funny Story, also by Emily Henry. This one is like a fake dating trope. This is about Daphne and Miles. Now, Daphne was engaged to Peter and she was in love with Peter, but he had this girl best friend, and she always in the back of her head was like, something's going on between the two of them, but I'm not really sure what. Then one day, Peter comes home and says, hey, I love you, but I'm gonna be with Petra, and breaks her heart. Meanwhile, Miles is currently dating Petra. So she comes home and says, Miles, I'm leaving you. I'm gonna be with Peter. So they break up, which then forces Miles and Daphne to live together because Peter basically kicks her out of the house. And so this is just a good way for her to not be homeless. So they move in together, and then they decide, you know what, we need to stop wallowing in our sadness and try to live life again. So they kind of help each other get over their breakup, and of course end up falling for each other in the end. This is probably one of her funnier books. Daphne is a character that I found myself relating to a lot, kind of the same way as January and even Nora in Book Lovers. Daphne was a character I was like, oh, she is so me. Like, I completely understand how you're feeling right now. Honestly, I may reread all of Emily Henry's books this year because we're not getting a new release. Getting back into her writing cave, I'm pretty sure. I'm excited to have this book. I really love it. So that's a funny story. Now, the next book, actually, let me do this one. The next book I have is called Just Last Night by Mari McFarlane. This is about a group of friends, and they've been friends since they were teenagers. They're now in their 30s. There's a tragedy that happens. I'm pretty sure it's gotta be like a car accident or something. I mean, like, it's on the cover, right? And it kind of changes the trajectory of the friendships in this book. I have been wanting to read this for a really, really long time. There's a couple of booktubers, book talkers that I follow that I really align with their book taste that have really raved and loved this book. Underlining, this is a romance book, but it's probably more of like a fiction with a romance subplot, but it's mainly about best friends and a tragedy that can either make or break the friendship. So I'm excited to get to this at some point. I'm excited to have her. And there's, of course, an ambulance. So this next book I actually won in a giveaway with Storygraph. So thanks to Storygraph and also the publisher Harper Muse. But this is called The Accidental Rewrite by Millie Johnson. This is what it looks like here. So this book is about a girl named Polly. Now Polly is a writer. She's also unfortunately hating her job. She's not really vibing with her partner anymore. She's just not having a good time. So she decides to quit her job, break up with her partner, and then she's gonna go on a little trip to kind of find herself again. So she goes on this trip, only is going to end up in some type of tragic event where she loses a little bit of her memory with a concussion, and she thinks she is Sabrina Anderson, the character that she has been plotting and writing about. So now she doesn't know where she is, she doesn't know why she went there, she doesn't know who she is. I mean, she thinks she's the character that she's written, so she's kind of living this life as Sabrina. Meanwhile, her memory is slowly starting to return, and she kind of has to make the decision on, who am I going to be, you know, Sabrina or Polly. So this sounds like it's going to be a nice, heartwarming story. I would like to hope. I don't think it's a romance book. I think it's more like women's fiction. Yo, this font is so small. Anyways, the train is going by. Every time I try to film a video, there's always some type of noise. The next three books that I have not read before, but I'm really excited to eventually get to. But this is the trilogy from Abby Jimenez, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer. And I found all of these various times via TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and they're about $8, $7 to $8 each. Part of Your World is like an age gap romance where she's older than the guy. She is big city girl. She's a doctor. He kind of has like a farm or something, lives in the country, and they have to kind of decide on which life to live in. I've heard nothing but good things about Abby Jimenez. I feel like she's an author that I would really love. I follow her on socials. I think she's funny. I think she's charming. I just have not gotten a chance to read any of her novels yet, but I'm going to read these. So basically, this is about a girl who a lot of stuff's going wrong in her life. She's getting divorced. Her brother is basically in kidney failure, and she's really just looking forward to getting this promotion at work because she just needs a win. But instead it ends up going to like the new hotshot doctor, and it's already a guy that she doesn't like. He gets on her nerves, like they just cannot get along. So after she loses the promotion, she's like, I don't know what else is gonna go wrong in my life. He ends up sending her this really heartfelt letter, like apologizing, saying that it wasn't his intention to like steal, quote unquote, the job promotion from her. Like it just happened and it's a good opportunity, so he did take it, but it was nothing personal. And she really finds the letter to be quite sweet and kind, and so they start sending letters back and forth to each other, and they kind of learn to like each other and find things that they relate about each other. So This is something that I'm also excited to read. And I think there's like a really good anxiety representation in this book as well. I think more so on his end. My friend said that she really liked that one a lot. And of course we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And this is about Emma and Justin. And they're kind of going through the same issue. They'll date someone. It'll be a great relationship. The other person will be like, actually, I think we should break up. And then the next person that person goes to is the one they end up marrying and wanting to spend the rest of their life with. That is deeply relatable to me because that has happened to me every single relationship that I've ever been in. Every single one, and I'm not joking. So it feels like you were cursed. Like, okay, am I just here to make sure this guy is the best version of himself for him to go pick the next girl? All right, cool. Anyways, I'm sure I'm gonna find this deeply relatable. I think this book specifically is her most loved. Also, what's cool about these books is the fact that they don't have to be read in order. There are baby cameos throughout the series, but you can read this in any order that you want to, and it works. So the next two books I want to talk about are classics. The first one I found at thrift stores was $2, and this is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. And this was first published in 1952 by a Black author. This is a fictional novel, but it highlights the treatment of being a Black man in the Deep South, how you're kind of invisible to a lot of different people. I've been wanting to read this book for quite a while, and I feel like it'll be something good to read as far as like just more Black literature in general. This is almost 600 pages long. Which is crazy, but I'm excited to read this book. I don't really know much about Ralph Ellison or his story, but I know this is probably one of his most regarded works that he's published, so I'm definitely excited to get to that at some point. All right, and the next classic that I have is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I found this at Marshall's. There's just a lot to be said about this book. I did go see the movie, and I honestly feel like I enjoyed the movie. I mean, not that much, but I kind of understood, like I got it, like I understand, you know what I mean? I think had I read the book before I watched that fan fiction movie, and I mean that derogatory, as someone who was a fangirl and loves fan fiction, I would not have enjoyed it had I read the original work. Like, I just know I would not have. So I'm glad to have seen the movie, and now I can read the book and, you know, just take it for what it is. I know this is not a love story. People think that it is, but it's a tragedy. This is a gothic story. I know that it is toxic and tragic and sad and infuriating, but that's kind of like the point of the story. So eventually at some point I will read this. The next book that I have is a YA novel, and this is called The Commons, and it's by Rebecca Iham, and this is actually an arc. It comes out on, I don't remember, April 20th, I think. I'll put it on screen when this book comes out. So I don't really know exactly what this book is about, but I know that it's like dystopian. I know that this is like an elite school where it's very sciencey in the future, and the goal is everyone needs to be common, which basically means everyone needs to be like basically carbon copies of each other, and if you're more intelligent and more different, you are targeted, right? So this girl has to go save her sister who's at this school because she's gone missing, and she has to like infiltrate. We're gonna see if I like this. I'm looking at some of the dialogue right now, and it's feeling very YA. So we're gonna see if I can get to this. Thank you to The Deep Publishing for sending a copy of this book to me. So I have 3 thrillers to share with you. Last year, I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I absolutely loved that book. It was so good. And so I decided to pick up another book by him, and this is called Recursion. This is kind of like a police procedural, but it's also sci-fi at the same time, which both of those things I really love. I know this has something to do with like the memories of people kind of being changed, but it's kind of like a disease, but it's also not. I don't really know. It sounds very interesting to me. I don't really know a ton about that, but I do know that I really loved Black Matter, so I am expecting this to be kind of like a similar vibe. I will enjoy this. I at least hope that I will enjoy this. The next book that I have is called Creation Lake. This is by Rachel Kushner. Now, I actually picked this up from an indie bookstore when I was in California at the earlier part of this year in February for my friend's wedding. And I decided to go to a local bookstore and just see what was popping in there. This was actually shortlisted for the Booker Prize. This is about a secret agent, and she is in Paris on a job where she meets this kind of enigmatic guy. They form a bond. They're cool. She assumes he's a target. Actually, I think he is a target, but they kind of form this relationship and lines kind of start to blur as far as her profession. As a secret agent, you kind of have to know what you're doing because that means your life and like you have a job to do, you know, so be serious now. Anyways, I'm excited to read this. It is a quite long book, I'm pretty sure. Actually, maybe it's not. Actually, I think it is. Yeah, this is like 400-ish pages. Sounds really interesting to me. And I feel like if it's a Booker Prize, like it's gotta be good, right? You know? Now the next book that I have, I was in the bookstore and I just saw it and it looked interesting, so I picked it up. I have never heard anyone talk about this book at all, but it's called Night Shift by, I'm pretty sure it's Kiara Ladner. Maggie meets a coworker named, I think, Sabine, and Maggie is kind of intrigued by Sabine. And so Maggie starts kind of hanging out with her at night, out all night long, and then Maggie's life, I've been calling her Maggie. Maggie's life kind of starts to slip away from her and she becomes increasingly more obsessed with Sabine and her life. I'm someone who really likes a messy, kind of psychotic character in a book. I don't know why. I think it's super intriguing to me. I think that this is what this book is going to be. It's quite short. It's not crazy long. I think it's like 200, maybe it's like 300 pages. It's less than 250 pages, so I think this is an easy, like, in one sitting kind of book. I think it's going to be crazy. So I'm excited to have it. And I have 3 more to share with you. These are kind of in the lines of like a literary fiction kind of leaning. The first one is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. If you know me, you know that I love Sally Rooney so much. She's one of my favorite authors. This book is about 2 brothers. Their father has passed away, so they're kind of navigating grief. They're navigating their own romantic relationships and like the failure of those. The brothers are constantly at each other's throats and they just do not like each other, but they're trying to do all they can to kind of be there for each other while they're experiencing this grief of their father's death. I've heard mixed reviews on this, but I think Sally Rooney always kind of has some mixed reviews. There's a couple creators that I follow who are pretty particular with the kind of books that they like and how they rate them can be kind of brutal. A couple of them have rated this book 4, 4.5, 5 stars, and that to me is huge. So if they are rating it that high, I'm sure I will really like this book because I read Normal People last year and I loved Normal People. Like, it just really felt modern and relatable. I totally understood that novel so much, so I'm excited to read Intermezzo. I think I'm gonna try to read it this year, actually. I've been very intrigued by it. So that's Intermezzo. The next book that I have is called This Close to a K, and this is by Lisa Cross Smith. Now, I saw this actually on Book Outlet and I was intrigued by it, by the premise of it. Essentially, this is about a therapist who is on a walk one day and she sees a man who's about to jump into his life, and she ends up talking to this guy and basically talks him off the ledge, quite literally. And so since she's a therapist, I think she offers to like be someone he can talk to. I don't really think this is like a romance between the 2 of them, but they both have secrets and they both end up kind of needing each other to kind of grapple with their own secrets that they have and end up forming a friendship, I'm pretty sure. This sounded really interesting to me, and it seems it's probably going to be really heavy and emotional, and those are kind of books that I really like. I picked this up from Half Price Books in Nashville. I was like, I've been seeing this book. I've been looking at it for months and months and months now. Maybe it's time I just choose it and get it and read it. And then the last book that I have is called This Motherless Land by Nikki May. Unfortunately, unfortunately it has one of those stupid Read with Jenna stickers that are permanent and I can't take it off. Now, I haven't really heard that much about this book, but basically in the blurb, we learn that it's about a girl named Funky who is Nigerian and she's living a very happy life. She loves being able to go to school with her mom and her family. She's having a great time. Then there's some tragedy that happens, and so Funky has to go to London to go stay with some of her family, and she is actually going to stay with her cousin whose name is Liv. Now, Liv is kind of living the opposite life of Funky, right? She is in a joyless family. She's not having a great time, but her little cousin Funky comes with a fresh perspective into her life, and so it kind of helps her to be happier in the situation that she's in. As the two girls grow into adulthood, they become really, really close, but then there's another tragedy and they're no longer friends. Something happens. From what I'm reading in the blurb, this book kind of spans 2 decades of time. It's about identity, culture, race, and love, and it asks how we find belonging and whether a family's generational wrongs can be righted. I found this in a free little library. It's in perfect condition, and yeah, Bonnie Garma, she wrote Lesson in Chemistry, says a spirited exploration of culture and kinship, how we belong, and to whom. And I also feel like this has to do with a multicultural family based on some of these blurbs. So I'm excited to read that. So those are all the books that I've picked up recently in the last few months, and if you've read any of the books that I've featured today, definitely let me know if you like them and if you think I would like them, and you can let me know if any books that you've picked up recently that you're really excited to learn. Maybe I'll pick one up too or get it from my library or something. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the video today. If you've made it this far, comment this emoji. I don't know what it is, but you see it, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.